webinar. So today we'll be discussing and sharing insights on the grants eligibility and how to prepare a strong application. So we're excited to have you all here today. So to kickstart this meeting, we'd like to start off with a poll. So this poll indicates where you're joining us from. So I'll ask right. Thank you to those who have started interacting with the poll. Thank you so much to those that are answering. Right, I'm seeing several countries here. We have Kenya, we have Uganda, we have Nigeria, we have Ethiopia. Right, thank you. Seeing the answers trickling in. I'm seeing Tanzania as well. Beautiful. We have a couple more minutes to interact with the poll. Just keep the answers coming. I'm seeing Sierra Leone, I'm seeing Italy, I'm seeing Cyprus. Right. I think at this time I will forward this to my colleague Sophonius so that he can take us through the Youth Lab program, an overview of the Youth Lab program. Over to you, Sophonius.
Thank you so much, Kudal, and thank you so much, everyone, for attending this call. We are very much excited to see all the countries joining, lots of young people from different parts of Africa and including European countries. Like Kuda said, we've got some information to share with you all, but let's talk a little bit about the Youth Advisory Board, which is the heart of this EU Youth Action Lab. I'm sure some of you are already aware about the program, which is the EU Youth Action Lab. This is a re-granting program funded by the European Union, has its own consortium teams, which you will hear from in a very short time. But we have been this re-granting program for the last 1 year, and as an advisory board of the youth, we are very much happy that the young people are now coming out with their very much innovative and wonderful project and doing an incredible job in their respective countries. That's the idea of this grant, to bring and to amplify the wonderful work of the young people doing in their countries. So it was a very much successful program we had last year. You will hear how many young people were received funding, and probably you will hear a lot as well what kinds of projects they are engaged with. So let's talk about the Youth Advisory Board, which is also I am a member. My name is Sophonias Tesfaye. I am one of the Youth Advisory Board, originally from Ethiopia. And one of the very interesting things about our Youth Advisory Board is they are coming from different parts of Africa, which is very exciting. So we've been selected from different parts of Africa, and also we have a couple of them from the European Union as well. So what is all about the AU EU Youth Action?
Sophonias, I'm sorry to cut you. Can we just go back, because we have also some non-English speaker today, and I just wanted to go back at the beginning to ensure that everyone is having access to their interpretation. And if we could go through the presentation and the timeline, if you don't mind. You can present the program, no problem on our side, but just to make sure that we have everyone that is not English speaking that is able to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. So does that mean, do you want me to okay. So do you want me to start from the very beginning?
No, you can go back where you were. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that we have everyone included here. Thanks.
Okay.
So I think we were back to what is the program about. And if you want me to jump in, let me know, okay? Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you, Alice. So back to what is the program is all about. What is the AU EU Youth Action Lab program? As you may have read from different our social media presence, our website, social media outlets, this is a global program that is working between the African Union and the European Union. So it's called the AU EU Youth Action Lab. Basically, this is a re-granting program, which means we have a funding organization and the young people submit their proposals through our call to proposal applications. And after their application being reviewed, they will be receiving the small different kinds of grants. So what is the idea of the AU EU Youth Action Lab program is one of them is very much focused on the participation and representations. That means making sure that youth voices are heard in policies and decisions that affect you. That's one of the big pillars we have. We want to make sure that the young people voices are heard and some sort of actions are taken towards it. So a big part of pillar of our AU Youth Action Lab is just about your voices. Your voices matters a lot, and we really want to know that what is a concerning problem to you in your local context, in your countries, so that we can shape the AU-EU partnerships really focused on the youth voices as well. The other part is empowerment and capacity building. We know that a lot of young people need these kinds of trainings, capacity building, strengthening their organization, which is already there doing lots of work, but we want to make sure that we are supporting their capacity, which means providing trainings and capacity building young and people for the young-led, youth-led organizations, just basically providing you a training. The other thing is also amplifying the youth initiatives is one of the things that is the AU Youth Action Lab pillars. So it's all about the young people amplifying their work and providing their capacity buildings trainings. Next slide, please. So that's what the AU EU Youth Action Lab. We do have these two big programs inside the AU EU Youth Action Lab. One is called the AU EU Youth Voices. I would like to encourage you to go to the Play Stores and download this application, which is a wonderful application. And this is basically gives you the opportunity to voice your opinions when it comes to the partnership between the African Union and the European Union. The platform has been there for about a year, and lots of young people were able to interact and voice their ideas, their concerns through this wonderful mobile app. But it's not just a mobile app. there are youth advisories in this, the EU Youth Voice Lab program as well. So our advisories, young people, also advise the European Union, the African Union partnership as well. There is lots of trainings that you can get from this platform as well, and also small grants that's ranging from €1,000 to 10,000 euros. So make sure that you are following these parts of our program as well. The other program is the EU Youth Action Lab. The Action Lab is all about re-granting mechanism, where we do have a call for proposal, and then you can also apply, you can submit your proposal to different projects that we have, which is, we do have 4 thematic area where you can apply through this application process. Your application will be reviewed through a rigorous systems, and finally, if you're able to win one of the grants, you will be receiving different kinds of grants, ranging from the smallest like €5,000 to up to 50,000 euros as well. So we do have a digital collaboration platforms here where young people collaborated on a different project from the African Union and the European Union, which is quite interesting because there is a lot of knowledge transfer, skill transfer on the digital platform as well on the Action Lab project. And also, we really love to strengthen your capacity. We know that that's where the sustainability is, making sure that you have the capacity to keep doing your project. So capacity building is one of the core things we do at the EU Youth Action Lab project as well. So 2 things, the Youth Voice and the Youth Action Lab. On the Youth Voice, you'll amplify your voice. On the Action Lab, you will have the opportunity to access some grants to strengthen your work, and at the same time amplify the most important work that you are already doing. Next slide. So why we call them powering grants? This is the word that I love the most, because we know that the young people are really doing lots of wonderful work back in their countries. But we call this grant as a powering grant, or sometimes we say shifting powers toward the young people. The reason why we love this way of expressing is that it is about there is nothing that can be done without the young people being at the heart of the project that we do. So we try to make sure that the young people are there whenever we are developing anything. So because we give a great emphasis and a great attention to the role of the young people. And that's why we decided to bring the Youth Advisory Board, who are an incredible young people in different countries who has been already engaged in a number of youth activities that we believe they have both the experience and understanding of the young people. So these are the Youth Advisory who are really making the decisions, who are really at the heart of these programs. But also, it's also strengthening their organizational capacities as well. It's not just giving them money and leaving them with some cash, but also making sure that these grants are working to make them stable, resilient, and financially secure, which is also very much important. We know that lots of young people struggle with a short and limited funding, so we make sure that the organizational capacity is also strengthened. And we know the process is sometimes very hard for the young people to access money, right? That's big. The bureaucracy, the application process, and their credibility is something very, very much challenging for lots of young people. So we make sure that the process they follow has to be very much simplified as much as possible. We do request certain things, but the application is very much simple to make sure that access to lots of young people, youth-led organization is there without so many problems. And because of these 3 important things, we think this grant is very much different because it's focused, the power is now focused on the young people instead of different multilateral organizations. So I really encourage you to see this grant and a very special opportunity for the young people because of these 3 important things. And we're very much proud of you that you are already taking the steps, joining these info sessions that will allow you to continue the next steps for you to able to apply. Next slide, please. So who are the grants for? I mean, who are the people eligible who can apply to these grants? There are certain criteria that you need to make sure that you really fulfill before you start applying to this call. One of the program you need to know is just this is for non-profit organization. That means it could be a trustee, CBOs, NGOs, CSOs with clear social missions. We need to know your organization is registered, either one of the non-profit structures, because that's very much important for us really to work with you. We cannot work with organizations who do not have a legal background. So if you are planning to apply one of the grants, please make sure you do have these certifications of legal certification. But we
So Phonias, we're currently not able to hear you. I don't know if something changed with your mic.
Yes, maybe internet, but I think Pauline can step in to assist with this slide.
Yes, of course. Yes, okay, I'll step in while Sophonias comes back. So indeed, so your organization needs to be a non-profit organization, with a little exception for entrepreneurship grants, which we will discuss later, where your organization can also be a cooperative with a social and or environmental mission. Your organization needs to be formal. So this means that you need to be legally registered in your country. You need to have a bank account, and you also need to have a clear governance structure of your organization. And very important, the organization needs to be youth-led. So what do we mean by this? We mean that all staff, so, or not the staff, but all decision makers, all decision makers of your organization need to be youth, so aged 18, 35 years old. So the ones who represent your organization's governance and who have primary decision-making power over the organization's direction and programs. So this can take different forms in different organizations. Sometimes it's the board, sometimes it isn't. This really depends on the organization. And then 80% of the people involved in the organization overall need to be youth. So this is also really important that those grants are for youth-led organizations, not only youth-focused organizations. And then following this, the projects also need to be youth-led, meaning that 100%, so all the people who will implement the activities, the project, need to be aged 18 to 35 years old. And then your organization needs to be registered in one of the eligible countries. So either one of the 12 African focus countries, which are Ethiopia, Kenya, Mozambique, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia and Somaliland region, Tanzania, Tunisia, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And then for one of the grant types, which are called cooperation grants, your organization can also be in one of the European Union member states. So that's for the eligibility criteria. And I'll pass the floor to Sarah for this slide.
Thank you, Pauline. So as already mentioned, the Youth Action Lab has been in action, and we wanted to just paint you a picture of where we are and how far we've reached as a program. So last year we rolled out our first call for proposals So and this now ushered in the first cohort of grantees that received grants from the Youth Action Lab. And as you can see, we have different grantees across different countries. Just to mention, Belgium, we so far have two. We have Croatia one, we have Ethiopia, 4 grantees. We have in France we have 1 grantee, Greece 1 grantee. In Kenya we have 9 grantees. I know the question that might start buzzing into your mind is why Kenya 9? But as we go along, we will understand, and also we have a call to action to all of you. Then Latvia, we have 1. Netherlands, we have 2 organizations. Then Nigeria, we have 4 grantees. Senegal, we have 3. Slovenia, we have 1. Tanzania, 4. Tunisia, 2. Uganda, 9. Zambia, 3. Zimbabwe, 3. So this is how and we have in total 51 grantees, and this is how our first cohort looks like. But as we usher in cohort 2, our call to action is so that actually we have, we reach other countries that we're not able to reach in cohort 1. As you already know, we are in 12 countries in Africa, but also in the countries under the European Union. So some of the countries that we currently do not have reach, we have Mozambique, we have Somalia, but we hope that in this second cohort we reach as more organizations or as more grantees from these countries as possible. And of course, as we continue discussing, even in the subsequent learning sessions, we will hear from us on why actually some countries do not have representation, largely because their applications were not as competitive as the others, but we are here to support you. We are here to walk with you this journey. And with that, I will then move on to the next speaker, take us through the next segment.
All right, thank you so much for presenting information to do with Youth Lab. Yeah, so now let's dive into something. Let's have an interactive session. So we're going to put up a poll for us to find out, are you part of a youth-led organization? Can you indicate from the poll if you're part of a youth-led organization? Awesome. I'm seeing people are starting to interact with the poll. Let's have more people interact with the poll. Beautiful. I'm seeing more and more engagement. All right. I think we're left with a minute more. Let's keep the answers coming. Are you part of a youth-led organization? All right. This is great. I'm seeing a lot of young people engaging with the poll. So I'm quite optimistic that, this call for proposal are going to have so many young people engage with the application. All right. So I think from here, we can move to the next segment. I'll hand this over to Pauline to take us through the next segment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Koda. Could we go to the next slide, please? So, as mentioned, there are 4 different types of grants to which you can apply to. So there are cooperation grants, representation grants, innovation grants, and entrepreneurship grants. We will walk you through each of the grant types more in detail. So for cooperation grants, they are managed, they are led by the European Youth Forum, and they really aim to bring youth-led organizations from Africa and Europe together to work together on advocacy initiatives. And the grants are of 50,000 euros. There are representation grants, which are led by Restless Development Uganda, that really aim to amplify the voices of underrepresented young changemakers. And in this cycle, the grants are of 10,000 euros. We also have innovation grants managed by Oxfam that really aim to drive bold youth-led solutions to tackle intersectional and global challenges. So at a global scale, and the grants range from 30,000 to 40,000 euros. And then we also have the entrepreneurship grants, which really enable youth-led enterprises and organizations to grow and drive meaningful change. And those grants are of 30,000 euros. And could we go to the next slide, please? And for representation grants, I'll pass the floor to Sarah.
Pauline, let me take over from Sarah. Thank you so much, Pauline, for taking us through the different grant types. And as you heard from Pauline, there are 4 different grant types. And so I would want to speak to the representation grants, which are managed by Restless Development Uganda. So the representation grants actually aim to bring voices of underrepresented and marginalized young people to decision-making spaces. And that is to say, the grants will focus on focus on, funding youth initiatives and innovations that will be challenging discriminatory acts and promote inclusion. Then secondly, focus will also be in building advocacy coalitions and networks. So these are organizations that look forward to strengthening, youth civil society advocacy at different levels, at the grassroots, you can call it country level funding. And then thirdly, priority will also be given to youth initiatives that will be that will be promoting initiatives that support hard to reach young people, especially bringing their voices and priorities to decision-making spaces, but also policy at policy level. And then fourthly, there will be a component of capacity building and research. And for research, priority will be given to initiatives that are carrying out investigative research, especially those that are looking out to have voices and priorities of young people integrated into policies, into decision-making initiatives at different levels. And then, of course, there will also be empowering marginalized groups of young people. So any initiative that will demonstrate the ability to empower marginalized groups of young people will be prioritized under the representation grant. Yeah, so basically, the representation grant will focus on bringing voices of underrepresented and marginalized young people to both decision-making spaces, but also at policy level. So as this is done, just as part of the tip, that we will look at proposals that will factor in the aspect of intersectionalizing barriers, especially to engagement, empowerment, and connection. So that will be very key at the time of reviewing the proposals. So as we look forward to encouraging youth-led organizations to apply, it would be important that you bring out those, issues, intersectional issues that, are linked to barriers that prevent young people from participating in social, economic, and other, parts of things that really affect and keep young people out of decision-making processes and realizing their full potential. So that is really about the representation grant, and I would now want to invite the next speaker to take us through the other grant type.
Great, thank you, Timothy. And as we move on, we are looking now at the second grant type, and this is innovation grants. And I think the question, that you would all have is, what do we mean by innovations, and what innovations can one apply funding for? So for us, innovation is a broad term, and I think you would also agree, even from your understanding as well, it's very broad. And usually when people talk about innovation, they normally talk about it from a point of focusing on new technologies. And while that is true and the case in most situations, for us, we are defining innovations as so much more. And so when we define innovation, we are talking about something as a design, test, scaling, or improving a new or existing activity. And in this case, it's an activity for young people in their own context, but with long-term impact. And so we are looking at innovations that go beyond just focusing on new technologies. And so we aim to reach your organizations and organizations that not only want to try something new, but those who seek to connect with their peers and share the results and experiences with other young people across Africa and Europe, as this program has been designed. And therefore, with that in mind, we are therefore looking at innovations that are linked to a global challenge. And when we're talking about a global challenge, we're talking about an issue that is faced by young people and their communities around the world. And so that's exciting on its own. And so we are also looking to, as we look at the global challenges, we want to draw your attention to the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And so we want to see that your global challenge is linked to those two frameworks, and they are broad in their nature. So we are looking forward to ideas from youth-led organizations that speak to an innovation that they would like to address within that framework. Another thing we are looking at as we look at the innovation grant is we also want to fund an innovation that addresses global challenge. We're also very keen to fund projects that have an intersectional approach. And by this, we mean that your project, your idea, should be something normally you find when you talk about intersectionalities, which my colleague touched on a bit, Timothy, is we're talking about quite a number of issues that young people face and face globally. And so sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint one area to address due to those intersectionalities. And so under the innovation grant, we'll be excited to fund projects that also have that intersectional approach as part of their project idea. And usually these are, themes that have a difficulty to find funding, because you'll find most funding is very specific. You'll find a partner who wants to fund into education, into sexual reproductive health. But for us, part of the innovation is that we want to fund projects that have an intersectional approach. So a very simple example is a project on climate and education. So we're looking to projects that can also look into those intersectional approaches. So as I hand over to the next speaker, looking at the cooperation grants, just remember the key issues around innovation. It's not just a new technology. We want it to be a global challenge. Therefore, look at the SDGs, look at Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, and also look at the intersectionalities. Those will be the ideas that we're looking forward to funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose. So now looking at cooperation grants. So really the main aim, the main objective of cooperation grant is to empower, to support cooperation initiatives, so and priorities at cross-continental and continental levels. So really to empower youth organizations to engage in policymaking and cross-continental collaboration and to do advocacy, so between Africa and Europe, with grants of 50,000 euros. So in order to do this, we offer 3 different things. So the first one is financial support, and we enable young people to become advocates for their rights and priorities, so through financial support. So this is the grant of 50,000 euros. So to dedicate efforts to policy work, local, national, and international stages. And then something else that we offer is training and resources. So as mentioned already before, there is a big emphasis in the program on capacity building. So we want to provide training and resources, so to help youth organizations so understand how to engage with government institutions, how to influence policy as active citizens. So this is done through different things. Every application will dedicate some percentage of their budget to capacity building of the organization. For cooperation grants, we will also organize an in-person kickoff training to really give resources and skills to organizations to implement their projects effectively. There is also a bigger global event that is organized with all the 4 grant types. We also offer mentoring support and many other resources. Organizations. And then, of course, we want to facilitate connections between youth organizations in Africa and Europe, so intercultural dialogue, cross-continental collaboration, and create new partnerships or strengthen already existing partnerships. And there are 4 focus areas or 4 main areas on which you will have to focus on in your application. So we will ask you questions on this, and then this will have to be reflected in your application. So the first one is policy and advocacy. So as mentioned, the cooperation grants are really policy and advocacy projects. So by advocacy, we mean speaking up for a cause. So initiatives should really engage efforts to influence public policies, government, community decisions, societal attitudes. So try to create change, to speak up for a cause. And then we have cross-continental collaboration, of course, so which is really the nature of cooperation grants. So to focus on cross-continental challenges, so focus on a topic that is relevant for all organizations that are involved in the consortium, and really focus on the cooperation so that the cooperation is beneficial for the project itself, but also for the organization, so that this cooperation is a mutual exchange for all of the organizations involved. Marginalized youth. So the initiatives should really benefit marginalized youth through the project. Sustainability, so the continuity of the project after the grant period, so how the project will continue after the grant period, and then also the collaboration, so how the cooperation between the organization will continue, and how the exchange of skills and the knowledge will strengthen the future work in the future. So in order to apply for a cooperation grant, you will need to be a consortium of 2 to 4 organizations, with at least 1 organization that is located in one of the 12 African focus countries and one of the organizations located in a European Union member state. And one of the organization will have a coordinator role, so a more administrative role, let's say, and must have experience working on a collaborative project. So in order to create your consortium, you can either reach out to an organization that you already know, that you already have experience working on, or we also want to facilitate new partnerships. So we are also facilitating this through a database of organizations located in all eligible countries in Europe and Africa, so you can fill out the form. It's available on the website, on the Cooperation Grants webpage. And then you can really put what your organization is working on, what you would like to work on in this project. And then you'll have access to the database of organizations to try to make new partnerships. And we will also have a webinar end of November to introduce cooperation grants. And beginning of January, we will have a workshop to facilitate the matchmaking. So I really encourage you to keep an eye on the website and on the communication to register to the workshop if you're interested. And I'll pass the floor to the next speaker for entrepreneurship grants.
Thank you so much, Pauline. And just remember the eligibility for these grants as we speak about the youth-led organizations, that you must be a youth-led organization and also within the falling within the mentioned eligible countries. If you can go to the previous slide, thank you. And now I'm going to talk about the entrepreneurship grants. And the objective of our entrepreneurship grants is to support youth actors in advancing their initiatives to expand economic opportunities for young people. So we want to find ways of supporting youth-led organizations in advancing their economic opportunities. And so we have a different focus this coming year in Cohort 2. In Cohort 1, we were looking at the focus around skills development. And this Cohort 2 is a completely different focus, though interlinked. For this coming cohort, we're looking at the responsible growth of youth-led social enterprises that combines their social or environmental mission with income-generating activities. So we're essentially looking at supporting the growth of those social enterprises, the income-generating activities of youth-led organizations that have a social and an environmental mission. And so I'm going to really emphasize on the issue around a social enterprise, because we do know that when we look at entrepreneurship broadly, there are fantastic projects and businesses that are out there for young people. But for this grant, we are specifically looking at social enterprises, which means they should have a social impact. They should be focused on the community. They should have a clear mission, whether social or environmental, and that whatever profits that they are making from their trading should be reinvested into the mission of the organization. So in short, these are organizations that are going to combine their social and environmental mission with their income generating activities. They are therefore going to use their trading or their service delivery, whatever business they have that generates revenue, and that revenue being reinvested into their projects. And this revenue is going to help the organization to reduce reliance on donor funding while expanding sustainability. Next slide. And so I think the key question which we'll try and answer is why target social enterprises? Why not just target profit-making young people's organizations that are, running small businesses or medium-sized businesses? And this is because, we know that youth-led organizations are on the rise globally, that they drive innovation, they drive civic participation, community development, and employment through their social enterprises. Therefore, we want to be able to fund organizations that will bring their missions to scale, and with outcomes that benefit the majority of the population. And here we're looking at young people. And we also know that youth-led organizations, as they grow, especially those that also have an income-generating project, they often face significant challenges in a number of issues, especially issue around resources, to grow their enterprises. But there are also issues around capacity, including issues around business ethics. And therefore, we aim to support youth initiatives that have an ongoing social enterprise. So we're not looking at a youth organization that wants to start now their social enterprise, but they have to have an ongoing social enterprise and are therefore looking for resources to be able to grow that social enterprise. And so, those are the key elements around the entrepreneurship grants and the focus for this year, looking at the growth of social enterprises. And in turn, what are we offering? Financial support to the right organizations, training and resources. I mentioned before the issue of gaps in capacity, business ethics, and so there'll be training and resources. And also, as mentioned before, you'll be able to collaborate with other youth through our Power to Voices platform, which is an online collaboration platform. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next speaker.
All right, thank you so much for that information. I believe we managed to get a better understanding of the different grant modalities that the AU Youth Action Lab has to offer. So now, before we move on to the next poll question, I just wanted to say that 93% of you indicated that you are youth-led organizations, and that is quite exciting. So now let's move to the next question. So our next poll question is, from what you've heard so far, which grant type are you most interested in? Thank you to the people that I'm seeing who are starting to engage with the poll. Some keep the responses coming. I see them coming. Which grant type are you most interested in? Is it representation, innovation, cooperation, or entrepreneurship? All right. Thank you so much to those who interacted with the poll. This is quite exciting to see so many young people are interested. So the results of the poll, 19% of you indicated that you're interested in the representation grant, which is awesome. 33% indicated that you're interested in the innovation grant. 14% of you indicated that you're interested in the cooperation grant, and 34% of you indicated that you're interested in the in the entrepreneurship grant. Thank you so much for engaging with the poll. I'll pass this to the next speaker to take us through to the next segment. Thank you so much. All right, so as you can see here, just an overview of the Youth Advisory Board. In this call, Sophonius and I are representing the Youth Advisory Board, but we're a group of 12 young leaders from Africa and Europe, and we're helping to shape and steer the program through power sharing and youth-led change. So in this case, youth voices are at the center of decision making, right? We're actively shaping how the funds are allocated, ensuring that the grants respond to the real priorities of young people. Next slide, please. So what is next? I think I'll leave this to, is it Pauline, who's taking us to the next part of this segment?
Thanks, Kuda. I will take over.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Pauline.
Okay, so what is next? So today was like the webinar to really present the 4 grant types. The next step is we're going to open the platform to be able to apply at the end of the week. So the call will be open by Friday. What is really important is to mark your calendar for the next webinar per grant type, so you can really learn about each grant type in depth and get more tips to have a great application. So as you can see on my screen, we have different dates. So for innovation and entrepreneurship, it will be on the 20th of November. The hours are to be confirmed, and representation and cooperation will be the 25th. There will be also an extra webinar for cooperation on the 27th of November. Please look at the website. There will be registration link posted really shortly. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. So what is important is to know the deadline. So as I said, we're going to open the 4 call for proposal at the end of the week. On Friday. There is 2 different deadlines. So for entrepreneurship, innovation, and representation grants, the deadline is the 7th of January at 1 p.m. CTE. So we will also put like the different time zone to make sure that you put that in your calendar. And for cooperation, because you need to matchmake with another organization, the timeline is longer. So the deadline is on the 15th of February. Next slide, please. Yes. So you have all the information on the website. So we are going to upload really shortly all the key documents you need to see. There will be some funding manuals, the application form also will be able to be accessed from the website. And also, we will post all the frequently asked questions. You can find also the recording of this webinar, and all webinars as well will be on the website, and the presentation. We invite you to register on the Power to Voices platform, because it's really the AU Youth Action Lab community. This is where you could find applicants like you, other youth organizations doing the same work as you do. So please join the Power to Voices platform. And I wanted to share with you, so we have the website, and to receive your application, we are working with a specific platform to really receive your application, and we will be able to assess your application from this platform. It's called ON Grip. So on the website, we have a specific page to really guide you through the steps. We made also like a really cool video last year. So please check it out. And I don't know if we can share it on the website, on the screen now.
The website page is shared on the chat.
Okay, super. Thanks a lot, Evita. So please note all the important dates for you, specifically for the grant type you're interested in. Don't forget, that's something maybe that was not clearly said before. You can, as an organization, you can apply only for one grant opportunity. So please have a little thought of which grant type suits your organization best, because the platform won't allow you to have a different application for your youth organization. Looking forward to seeing you, and I think now it's time for Q&As, right?
Yes, it's indeed time for the Q&As. So Sarah and I will try to address some of the questions that have been asked on the chat live. If we don't get to answer all the questions, we will also upload frequently asked questions on our website where you can read the answers to the questions that might not be answered now. I think one question that was asked quite a number of times is how you can apply for a grant. Sarah, would you like to come in to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Evita. So how you can apply for any grant type. So we'll be launching the call for proposals, and this call is going to be launched on our website, but also on the different social media platforms for AU-EU. And once you see that call, there's an application form which you're supposed to complete. However, before you complete this application form, kindly look at the funding manual. So each grant type has a funding manual. Look at it very well and see whether you're eligible or not. This will guide you before even you kickstart the application process.
Thank you, Sarah. We also got a lot of questions about which countries are eligible for these grants and how that was determined. I can maybe answer that question myself. So there's 12 eligible countries within Africa that organizations can apply from. This means that your organization needs to be registered in one of these countries. These are Ethiopia, Kenya, Mozambique, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia and Somaliland region, Tanzania, Tunisia, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And then specifically for the cooperation grants, which is a collaboration between a European and African organization, European Union member states are also eligible to apply, but that's only limited to the cooperation grants. The countries were determined by the presence of the consortium in these countries, and the consortium consists of Restless Development and Oxfam and the European Youth Forum. I also saw quite some questions about what a youth-led organization means and how that's how we define a youth-led organization. Sarah, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, thanks. So according to the Youth Action Lab definition of a youth-led organization, so a youth-led organization is an entity that has not at least, but has 100% youth between the age of 18 to 35, 18 to 35 years of years, and these are part of the decision-making of the organization. 100% of youth between the age of 18 and 35, these are part of decision-making. And then 80% overall of the entire organization. We appreciate that, we have several staff members who are part of the organization, so we don't say perhaps that 100% of all the staff members of the organizations, but those who are part of the decision making should be 100%. That really shows that you're youth-led.
Thanks, Sarah, for the clear answer. I also saw a specific question coming in about the corporation grants. Maybe, Pauline, you would like to address that one. It was how to identify a partner for the corporation grants.
Thank you, Evita, and thank you for the question. So there are two ways. Either you already know someone on the other continent, like an organization, and you can reach out to that organization, have a look at the funding manual, the website, and then draft your application together. Or if you don't know another organization yet, we set up a database of organizations. So there is basically a Google form that you can fill out with the name of your organization, what your organization works on, and what kind of project you would like to work on, and what kind of project you would like to work on, and also what role you would like to have in the consortium. And then you'll have access to a database of organizations that are also interested in the program. We did this last year as well, and we had quite a few organizations that filled out the form and then were in the database. And then we will contact all of the organizations that are in the database. And in January, we will have a matchmaking workshop. So a workshop for organizations to basically find each other, talk more in person, but online, of course, to facilitate the matchmaking. And all the links can be found on the website. If you go to the website on the Cooperation Grants webpage, at the bottom of the page, there should be the matchmaking form already. I hope this answers the question.
Thanks, Pauline, for addressing that. There was also a question which is also related to the different grant types. Can you apply for multiple grants? And how do you determine which grant is most suitable for you? Sarah, do you maybe want to come in again?
Sorry, Evita, can you ask the question again?
Yes. Can you apply for multiple grant types in one call for proposals, in one round for call for proposals? And how do you determine which grant type is most suitable for your organization?
Okay, I think I'll start with how actually do you ascertain which grant type is suitable for your organization. First of all, is looking at the eligibility criteria for each of the for the 4 grant types. Like I mentioned, we'll during the call we'll have the funding manual shared, and these really clearly lay out the type of the organization, location, and everything. So for example, the representation manual is very clear, and it will show you that you're supposed to, the organization is supposed to be located in any of the 12 countries. But if you look at the one of cooperation, it will clearly tell you any of the 12 countries, but also within the EU. So the manual clearly tells you and stipulates whether you're eligible or not. Then the other about whether you can apply in 2 or 3. So like Alice has said, we encourage you to only apply in one grant type. One, this gives you the opportunity to clearly develop your proposal, respond to the questions, you basically give it enough time rather than, applying here and there, and yet you're not, delivering to the best. So let's stick to applying to one grant type and read the funding manual to know which grant type is best fit for you.
Thank you, Sarah, for the clear answer.
Evita, can I just add something to
Yes.
what Sarah has said? Yeah, so in addition to reading the funding manual, our colleague Alice also mentioned that we are going to have webinars for each of the 4 grant types. So I encourage everyone to be part of this webinar, listen through, be able to ask questions, because we will be explaining in detail what is involved in each of the grant types. And I believe by the time you're applying, you will have as much information as possible to decide on which grant type to apply for. Thank you, and back to you, Peter.
Thanks for adding that, Timothy. So there were also quite some questions around the entrepreneurship grants and what type of organization you have to be registered as to be able to apply for an entrepreneurship grant. I'm merging some different questions here. Roslyn, would you be able to speak to that?
Thank you for that, and thank you for those questions. So yes, indeed, there have been a few questions around whether organizations registered as company limited by guarantee can apply, will be considered for the entrepreneurship grants, and those without share capital, will they be considered? And also those registered as sole proprietorship, limited company, but with a clear social mission, whether those ones will also be eligible for the entrepreneurship grant. And I think there was also some explanation around how sometimes it's a bit hectic to register an NGO due to tough processes and so on. Yeah, so that's quite difficult sometimes to find the balance. But for the entrepreneurship grants, we've been, I think, very clear in terms of the social enterprises. So as we look at the eligibility criteria, we are going to be looking at various indicators to ensure that organizations that apply are eligible. And the main things we're going to look at is to look at mission first. And so we need to see that your non-profit organization has a clear social or environmental mission. And so it's a mission first. They have a community, a social impact that they have been working on. And so we have indicators to look at how we can see that. And then the social enterprise should be something that's coming along to support the mission. And the social enterprise should have been running for at least a year for us to see, that you've been operating and that what you need now is just support to grow it so that it can plow back the funds into the mission. And so for all the grant types, actually, we're looking at funding youth-led organizations, but that are non-profit making. And so those are the things we will look at, even in terms of your registration and the work that you've been doing. I hope in a nutshell that answers you, but as Timothy has said, we are going to also have very focused webinars for each grant type, and we'll be able to give more information as well. Back to you, Evita.
Thank you, Rose, for answering that question. So there was also a question around how many grants we will award in this call for proposals, and is there a system to ensure equal representation of all the different countries? Does maybe Rose or Alice wants to answer this question?
Alice, you can come in.
Yes, sure. So each grant type will allocate different number of grants. So for example, for representation, it would be only 10 grants, entrepreneurship 5, innovation, I believe it's 7 or 8, and the same for cooperation. So we have a really small amount of grants that we can allocate within the second cohort. So yeah, it's really a small number of grantee for this cohort. And one of the things we really look at indeed is the distribution between the different focus countries. So to make sure that we have a balanced representation between the country that can apply.
Thank you, Alice, for answering that. There was also a question if you can apply with 2 or more organizations for a grant. Maybe Pauline, you want to address that question?
Yes, thank you, Evita. Could you repeat the question, please?
Is it possible to apply with 2 or more organizations for one grant?
Yes, so for cooperation grants, you can apply with 2 to 4 organizations. So you need to be minimum 2 organizations, so one from Africa, one from Europe, and maximum 4. And then so you need to have at least 1 organization from Africa and 1 organization from Europe, but there is no rule on how many need to be on which continent. For the other grant types, so innovation, entrepreneurship, and representation, you can apply as 1 organization in Africa. So European organizations cannot apply to innovation, entrepreneurship, and representation grants.
Thank you, Pauline. There was also a question around if we give professional support during the application rounds to support organizations in writing their application. Alice?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we don't really have the capacity to coach each applicant, but please attend the webinars that we are going to host for each grant type, because we will provide great tips to make sure that to strengthen your application, I would say.
Thank you. A question that I saw coming by quite a number of times was if we are going to share the information of this webinar and the PowerPoints somewhere. Maybe Alice as well.
Yes, thanks, Evita. Yeah, so the recording and the presentation will be uploaded on the website, so everyone can access to it later on.
Thank you, Alice. So there was also some questions around if we give feedback on the application if you are not awarded a grant. That question was also asked for the previous round for call for proposals. Just to clarify for everyone, we are now launching a second call for proposals, and it might be the case that you did apply for the previous call for proposals as well. If you weren't awarded a grant in the previous rounds, you are eligible to apply again. Of course, if you do meet the other eligibility criteria. And in terms of the feedback that we can give to the different applications, Alice, do you want to say something about that?
Yes, sure. So earlier this year, when we launched the first call proposal, of course, we couldn't award all the application that we received, unfortunately. So what is possible is once you receive the notification that you were that the application was rejected, you can send us an email on the AU Youth Action Lab address to request some feedback. Not all organizations requested it, but some organizations requested some feedback for the application in the first cohort, and we can provide a short summary of the reasoning why their application was not retained for the first cohort.
Thank you, Alice. We also got a question around what the grant amounts are for the different grant types. Maybe Rose, you want to give a summary of that?
So for the second cohort, this cohort, for entrepreneurship grants, we are awarding 30,000 euros over 12 months per grantee selected. And for cooperation grants, it's 50,000 euros. For representation grants, we're looking at 20,000 euros per grantee. And for innovation grants, we are awarding between 30,000 to 40,000 euro. So it could be 30,000, 35,000, or 40,000 euro. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. And maybe as a follow-up question, can startups or organizations that have never received funding before apply for a grant?
No, they are not eligible. And I'm assuming it's referring to the entrepreneurship grants. And so for those ones, we want to see that you have at least been operating your social enterprise for about a year.
And does that refer to the dates that you were registered or that you have been running activities? I saw a question about someone that did have an initiative running for a longer period of time already, but only registered recently.
I think we will look at it in the totality of all the other indicators. And remember, for entrepreneurship, it's about mission first. So were they also implementing their mission without being registered? So that's what we'll also be looking at.
Thank you, Rose, for answering that. I also saw a question around what it means. What do we mean with sustainability of an initiative or of a project? Who would like to answer this question? Maybe Sarah, you would like to come in. So what do we mean with the sustainability of a project or an initiative?
Okay, thanks, Evita. I'll try, but also in case any of my colleagues here on the call would like to step in, well and good. So I think this is really a question that comes up almost at any time when you are, are writing a proposal. But key to sustainability is, can your action, can your project be traceable beyond the time of implementation? That is the question that, we should always have when we are applying for any grant. So beyond the time when you're implementing, can your action remain? Can your structures, can your whatever you did remain and continue thriving beyond the project lifetime? That is the biggest question. So as you are putting in your proposals, have that question in mind and design initiatives, design structures, design networks that can enable your project to run or the idea go on beyond the grant time, beyond the grant period. That's what really I should mention about sustainability.
Thank you, Sarah, for answering. We're also coming towards the end of the webinar. At the same time, also realizing that there's still a lot of questions that we haven't answered yet. But just to repeat, we will upload a frequently asked question on our website in which we will address questions. And we also invite you to all the other webinars that are being organized in the coming months and weeks to get further in-depth information about the different grant types that we are launching. Can I give the floor for any last words to Alice?
Yes, sure. Thanks a lot for joining today. Please visit the website. We will upload as soon as possible the video, the recording of this webinar, but also the presentation. You will be able to access also the link to be able to register to the different webinar per grant type, depending on which grant suits the organization the most. And you will find also like a Q&A, a frequently asked question page where we will put all of the questions that we saw that were left unanswered in these sessions. As a reminder, we're aimed to open the call for proposal, the platform to apply at the end of the week. So please look at the website and follow us on social media to make sure that you don't miss the opening. And thank you all for joining. And thanks for the great panelists for their contribution today. Have a lovely day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Have a nice day.